My name is Max Schachter. My little boy Alex was murdered during the Parkland school shooting, where 17 were murdered and 17 were injured in just 3 minutes and 51 seconds. One piece of the tragedy that is not been publicized at all is a role that the Broward County School Board appointed and hired an individual called a family liaison to liaise between the Parkland families and the school district, because there was a lot of animosity after the tragedy. This lady that I'm sitting right next to is Lisa Veit, and she was hired to be that family liaison. And I'd like to just highlight her role and what she's done after our tragedy, because I think that her role is a model that other communities should follow, and that someone should be a family liaison in every tragedy after a mass shooting. And I know you started this whole support group for mass shooting communities to help others that are in your role. So I think, that would really be good for everybody to know as well.
Hi, I'm Lisa Veit. I am a Parkland resident. I'm a social worker. I'm a mother. My family was living in Parkland during the time of the tragedy. My children were freshmen and in fifth grade. And so my initial outreach was really to provide resources and connections, really looking at how do you speak to children, how do you speak to families, how do you support in the aftermath of violence using some of the research and that is out there. So I initially sent that information both to my principals that house my children's schools, to our mayor,
Right.
Christina Homchowski, to our school board representative at the time. And it was through that outreach. I was doing that actually while I was waiting for my son to be off lockdown.
Right. So you sent this information to the school district just because you wanted them to have this information
not knowing. I'm affiliated with USC, Suzanne Dwork Peck School of Social Work. At the time, my boss happened to be Dr. Marlene Wong, who's one of the premier experts following mass shootings, responding to Columbine, Sandy Hook, advising presidents. And so I knew I had resources that might be beneficial.
Right.
Really never thinking that I might be the person
doing
actually facilitating the work, but really wanting to make sure that my community had best resources at the time, not knowing how significant our tragedy was.
You live in the community, your kids go to school in Parkland schools. Okay.
And that was the initial outreach.
Right.
And so I started volunteering after that. The district had reached out to ask for me to facilitate some meetings with families. And I volunteered for 10 months. And it was really the families themselves that identified that I was a constant person, someone who was there and following up with them when there was a concern. I wanted to make sure that the problem was being resolved.
Broward County Public Schools.
Broward County Public Schools agreed, and I became a single point family liaison. So all communication from the district, and it ended up being from our Community Resource Center, Eagles Haven, as well as the city of Parkland. I became that single point of contact so that families had one person that they could go to, and I was one person sending out information.
After the shooting, the families were very, very upset with the school district and law enforcement. And so Lisa kind of stepped in the middle as to liaise between the families and the district, because there's a lot of families that never want to talk to Broward County Public Schools ever again. You kind of helped liaise between that, because there needed to be communication, even though a lot of us didn't really want to.
Right. And so how I really gave each family the determination how they wanted to connect with me.
Right.
So they had to give permission for me to reach out. So I do provide ongoing email communication. Anytime the district had any efforts of communication, it came through me. I'm also looking at developing relationships, understanding families. I also know what language that could be hurtful, harmful, and maybe didn't promote their wellness. And so I was very careful and cautious to look at how we're saying what we're saying, that we need to have that communication. It needs to be consistent, but we also need to look at how we're saying it, because each family or each person or each group, those words might resonate a different way. So really thinking about trauma responsive language, and that would look different in any scenario. So really evaluating, assessing, and then creating a list of ways that we could interact, and also that I encourage other individuals when they interact to make sure that we're being thoughtful and not minimizing anyone's experience.
Because there's a lot of different types of families involved too. It wasn't just parents.
It wasn't just parents, there's spouses, there's siblings.
Yes.
So when we say family, we're really identifying everyone part of in the family, not just if you say parent, then we're leaving out those who lost their life partner.
And that's very hurtful.
And it's very hurtful.
And we had families that, some that English was not their language. We had, several families that spoke Chinese and Spanish. And so you really had to learn each family and
how they wanted to communicate, who they wanted me to communicate to. And so allowing each family to decide how they would like to interact with me, or if they just wanted the information from me, or if they didn't want anything at all. So if you could just talk at a high level of what you've done in Parkland to help the families and some of the things, just to give people an idea of some of the things that you did and that, what should be done in another tragedy? Well, initially, I think having a single point of contact allowed families to have one person to connect with when they had questions, if they didn't understand something, if they wanted to ask the district questions but didn't know how to, or they were uncomfortable speaking with someone directly. Okay. And so as the single point of contact, initially it was really more of a communication out and then taking in all of the information and bringing it back to the district, but in a confidential manner. Right. Over time, realizing that as relationship built, I learned more about families, really looking at what are some of the needs? What are the needs of each individual family and what are the needs of the group? Because those look very different. Right. You'd help the injured families as well as the families of the deceased. Correct. Based on whatever those needs were. So for families who were returning, so that could be injured students or siblings. It could be siblings. Like Alex had a little sister. And so wherever they were in the district, I would collaborate and coordinate. You were the one point of contact that we called that you could help Alex's sister, right? And so I worked very closely with school counselors. And then you were also kind of like our voice during the commemoration ceremonies. You helped guide the district's planning for the graduation ceremonies, and Alex was 14 and when he would have graduated with his class, and so you helped the district plan that so that my family could be part of that and make sure that we were comfortable with the way that they were portraying everything. It was really always being in attendance and being your voice. Yeah. Because my role was to be your family's and every family advocate, always making sure that you might not want to participate or be in every meeting, but the voice of your families were included in what you wanted the planning to look like, how you wanted to participate, if you wanted to come or if you didn't, but you wanted to have information because your family may not be at a place that they were ready to be, let's say, for example, on campus, but giving you the option if you wanted to come to campus, how would you get there and how would you have access? And I remember you were so helpful when we opened up the building and I started bringing people through the site of the Parkland school shooting. You helped facilitating that, and then the memorial, the planning of that as well. I think that after every tragedy, there should be a family liaison, one person that is assigned to help the victims' families, right? What families have experienced, it was the easiest way for you all to interact and be a part of a school, a community, because you were a part of that school and that community. And when Alex died, you didn't get bumped, you didn't know what was happening in that community, but you still lived there. Yeah. How were you able to participate in a way that was comfortable for your family, thinking of all the needs that you might have to be able to attend anything that you would want to, but with support? We're almost at 8 years and the needs are still exist. Yeah. There's still things that happen day to day. Yeah. It could be community tragedy elsewhere. Yeah. It could be changing laws and you're asked to continue advocacy. And those supports are needed throughout a lifespan.
Yeah.
And thinking of, we have families whose loved ones who died still in elementary school, like their sibling passed away. They need support all the way through. Those that were injured, there was children that were born after the tragedy. So when you think of the longevity of that family, if they stay in our community, what supports are needed?
And you're saying that because a lot of times if they do appoint someone in that position, they're only normally there for a very short period of time, right?
The average, and this is not my statistics, it's other people sharing this with me, is that the recovery role, people tend to be in that position for 18 to 19 months.
Yeah, which is a very short period of time.
There is a level of distress that happens in taking in and being a container to those supports. And so it's one of the reasons why I started meeting and offering time for other individuals that are doing that recovery work, is thinking about if you were on your fourth or fifth liaison, would you go to that person?
No, absolutely not.
It's a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I trust you, and
so
you know how we feel and how we want our loved ones to be remembered and how we want the commemoration to go.
And I think that that's important. So I know and I can anticipate, but I never make decisions for your family. So I always bring it back to you, ask for your opinion, feedback, and take it back. Even though most of the time I might know the answer 8 years later.
I tell you don't need to keep asking me. You know already.
But 8 years later, people have allowed me the honor of walking through this process in their lives. It's something that's so horrific. And I don't take that lightly, but I always want to make sure that it's not my voice, my opinion. It's your voice and what you need
we appreciate
to honor. And so, but the one thing I wanted is having a place where people could just come for support, not necessarily a place where we just come meet. It's been very organic, but if someone could stay in their job longer, they can support families longer, they can support the school longer, communities longer, because
it's definitely needed.
It's a long-term process.
Yes.
That is needed. And I've been very fortunate that Broward has supported, here we are.
That's one good thing that Broward County Public Schools has done. They've kept you here for, it's almost 8 years, and it's needed. Thank you.